Welcoming you onto the field here at Research Stadium following Oregon State's 49-14 loss to Oregon. Brendan Slaughter, publisher of BeaversEdge.com, joined by Ryan Harlan, writer for BeaversEdge.com. Obviously, a lot to get into in this very one-sided video breakdown that we're going to have today. There's not going to be a whole lot to really dive into in this video. Make sure to head on over to BeaversEdge.com for Ryan and I's thoughts. But to sum this one up simply, folks, the final score tells you all you need to know. Obviously this game was decided in the second half, and, the first half we'll obviously get into here in a little bit, but, the second half turned into an ugly number. Oregon pretty much blew Oregon State out of the water in this at Research Stadium. And, something we were curious about talking about with the players' press conference, Ryan, this is the worst loss they've had at home since the COVID-shortened year, right? Went undefeated at home in 2021, lost one game, 22-2, one game last year. How does a game like this happen, Ryan, where there were times when, again, I'm not coming out and questioning individual guys' efforts, but there were times in the second half where it looked like we've seen this. It was, for lack of better terms, a Tim Tibesar defense of going through the motions. Now, that being said, there is something to say that, maybe Oregon State just didn't have big enough guys. I mean, big enough, strong enough guys to create a difference. But I think, this conversation has to start defensively. And when you look at what Oregon was able to do, I don't have the final book in front of me, but at one point it was almost 10 yards of play. They were for the first half. And you skip 10 yards, Ryan, every time you snap it. I mean, you could have the Chiefs offense. You ain't going to win any games.
No, if you give up that much, you're just asking to get blown out at home.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And there was no push up front whatsoever from the defensive line. Dylan Gabriel had all day to throw back in there. I think at one point I saw 291 yards from him in the air on 20 of 24 throwing. That's just mind-boggling. And that's just a testament to the fact that he had no pressure in the pocket all game. And that's something where that's just unacceptable. I think regardless of opponent, you cannot have a quarterback sit upright and have all day to throw in the backfield if you get no pressure on it.
Yeah, I mean, the Beavers obviously are dealing with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but I think we now know San Diego State sucks offensively. Let's just call a spade there, because I don't know how you can go from shutting out an opponent on the road to being this lifeless on defense. And again, I don't necessarily question the effort of these guys. I question the scheme and the preparation. Ryan, whether it was, Dylan Gabriel, as you mentioned, having 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw, and then it's, he's got a wide open receiver. No one within 5-10 yards of him.
Yeah.
And it's I just wonder if Oregon State was truly overmatched in this game, and I don't think that they were, because we saw this Oregon team struggle with Idaho, and they put up a little bit more against Boise. But to have this be their Oregon's first road game, they silenced a lot of their critics, coming into this game. And I wonder if Oregon State's defense was not as prepared for this game as we thought, and maybe that's why we are where we are.
Yeah, and I think too, maybe the scheme might be overcomplicating things a little bit in how guys are playing. One play in particular that I saw, we talked about with Jordan a bit earlier, but there was one play where I saw him blitz and we kind of vacated an open zone, and Dylan Gabriel was easily able to hit Terrence Ferguson for a big, sizable gain, and that's something where you cannot have that defensively at all, and that's an easy throw for whoever's back there, regardless if it's Dylan Gabriel or not. A quarterback back there is going to hit that throw to his tight end all day.
Right, and on the opposite side, you can find some positives in Oregon State's offense, but not in the second half.
No.
And again, I looked at you in the third quarter, and it's almost just like, you're starting to hang your heads a little bit. Things go from bad to worse. And, it's shocking to me that a game where it was legitimately within reach. You look at this game offensively, that first drive, you get the Everett miss, Oregon goes down and scores, but then you go and you score again. And, Oregon State was kind of back and forth for that first half. Only then, and you and I looked like, hey, if the defense makes some adjustments, this could be a good game in the second half. And, we were asking Trent about that, and it just, they didn't really have a good answer for us, right?
No, there was not really anything really that they could have done that probably, like hindsight itself, and maybe that's a little pessimism in there too, but there's probably no adjustments that they could have made to slow down Oregon's offense or what they did
today.
In the second half. But especially offensively too, it's like after a certain point you just kind of deviate a little bit from your game plan, and you got to pass the ball when you're down by so much.
Right.
And it's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, last thing I want to touch on here as well. Again, Oregon State falls to Oregon 49-14. They're back in action at Purdue, here at Reser Stadium against Purdue this next Saturday night. But, going back to the first half, Ryan, I want to talk about a play that I thought was super consequential, or a series, and that's when the Beavers were trailing 15-7, and they put Jabari Johnson in the game.
Yep.
There's bobbled snap. The drive is dead before it even gets underway. And I just wonder that in that moment, if that was the right call. I mean, hindsight 2020, but I just don't think you take McCoy out of rhythm when you're in a one-score game with your rival and you're right there. And, or to put it kindly, Ryan, Oregon went through Oregon State's defense like a hot knife through butter.
Yep.
And there was like a few moments where maybe one or two negative. Dylan Gabriel was never at risk of getting sacked today.
Nope.
He was basically playing scrimmage out there. And yeah, if you're Oregon State's offense, again, the second half was terrible. There were things you could take away from the first half. Ryan, I don't know if there's anything the defense can take away from this game other than to flush it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you do in a loss like this. You just got to flush it and go. Yeah. And then with Johnson third drive, I'll say this: it's like this is kind of the negative that I always had about that third drive, even from last year, too, with Childs and DJ. And we saw that today kind of play out, taking the quarterback out of rhythm early when you want to get him comfortable against a really good opponent in Oregon, too, that's very talented defensively. And you do yourself a little disservice by putting yourself behind the eight ball, by not having that drive pan out the way you think it's going to pan out. And I get what they're trying to do with Jabari. I understand that completely, but there might be some times where you might just have to hold off on giving him a full series, and maybe just say hey, we're going to give something different here for this defense to look at, whether that be Oregon, whether that be Purdue, on a third and short, fourth and short. We're going to bring in Jabari, and we're going to give the defense another factor to look at here, but not a full series. I don't think that was the right call in the moment too, but hindsight is hindsight.
Of course. And again, go ahead and that'll wrap up this video. Again, make sure to stay locked into BeaversEdge.com. Ryan's going to have a column from today's game, and I'm going to be breaking down 3 things we learned, 2 questions, and a prediction. So make sure to stay locked to BeaversEdge.com. Again, Oregon defeats Oregon State 49-14 here at Reser Stadium in the new iteration of the rivalry game in September. The Beavers will be back in action against Purdue here at Reser Stadium next Saturday.